Lego, don't you put that evil on me, baby. Don't go out there and make a video about this. It's a trap. Buddy, what are you doing? And I know that's what a lot of you are thinking right now, but man, let's just make this video. We'll get it out of the way. It's one idea of many that exist that we have been talking about here on the YouTube channel regarding Vancouver Canucks forward JT Miller. And I was initially going to make this video about only Vancouver, only Canucks stuff, only Miller, only Horvat too. I wanted to talk about Bo, and the reason I wanted to make this video in that way was because we had ourselves an update from Thomas Drance and Rick Dhaliwal on The Athletic, what they're hearing about the JT Miller dynamic, and the Canucks' plan for training camp. This article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read it. It goes over JT Miller, it goes over Bo Horvat, it goes over the Vancouver Canucks and their entire situation here. But because it's behind a paywall, we're not going to go ahead and read this piece. We're going over onto ProHockeyRumors.com, where the writer here, Ethan Hitu, posts the latest update on Miller and Bo. This piece on Pro Hockey Rumors summarizes the Athletic piece, plus it's published on a free platform that does not require a subscription, so we're going to be screenshotting and reading from this individual article instead. And what I wanted to focus on in particular was one part of the JT Miller update. There is a big discussion happening about Bo, but the Miller stuff is where I wanted to focus on. Much of what happens with Bo, then, could depend on the fate of Miller. With a 99-point season under his belt, JT Miller is in an extremely strong negotiating position. He's been a truly elite talent as a Canuck, and likely wants to be compensated with a contract that reflects the value he's put forth the past few seasons. And we've already discussed that, 99 points in 80 games is phenomenal, and you go over the body of work that Miller has already had as a member of Vancouver the past 3 years. It's been 3 years since the guy was acquired, by the way, my goodness. But every single year, he's been a point-per-game caliber guy. I know last year in 2020, 2021, he wasn't that, but everybody kind of sucked, so it's okay. We'll let him off the hook for that one. But Miller has been good, and with the negotiations being in the position they are, hey, he's a 99-point player who has an opportunity to get a 99-point player type contract. And if the Canucks end up putting off this negotiation for now, they go the entire 22-23 season with Miller as a $5.25 million forward. He gets another 99-point season, maybe. All of a sudden, there is an even bigger case for him to get more money once those extension talks continue in a year. The challenge for Miller with the Canucks, then, is if he is worth the massive contract he's earned, and if, more importantly, giving him such a lucrative contract extension that covers his 30s is appropriate for a team whose core base of talent is still in their early to mid-20s. That's a beautiful sentence. That kind of went out there and summed up the entire JT Miller trade fiasco conversation in just a few words, so big applause over to the writer here. Drance and Dhaliwal report that the Canucks are privately continuing to insist that retaining Miller is their preference. Even so, Miller's own preferences could throw in a wrench in the possibility of him remaining in Vancouver. Miller's agent, Brian Bartlett, told The Athletic that Miller's camp will opt to cut off all discussions on a new contract once the regular season commences. Such a stance might look familiar to some fans, as it's the route that Johnny Gaudreau took this past season while negotiating with the Calgary Flames. Now this is nuts, because it pretty much handcuffs the Canucks into two options here. Either A, you start the 2022-2023 season with Miller on your team, and you trade him at the trade deadline, or B, you don't extend him now, the conversations end up pausing for an entire season's worth of time because the agent doesn't want to negotiate in the middle of the year, and then by this time next season, you're going through the same process. In June, you start to converse with Miller. Hey, let's say he produces an 82-point season, because, heck, it's possible that he does that. He goes out there with 2 straight point-per-game years, almost a 100-point season the year beforehand, and he's like, yeah, I want $9.5 million by 8 years. The cap is going up. I'm a good enough player to get that type of money. Vancouver, show me the money, Patrick. But the thing is, the same problem from right now will still be present in a year from now. We don't know how good JT Miller is going to be as he ages into his 30s and continues playing at a $9 million contract per season. You have Pettersson and Hughes and Besser and Horvat and everybody else all as younger guys. Bo Horvat maybe not as young anymore, but you get what I mean. And with Podkolzin and Lekaramaki and Höglander all still younger guys in the tank as well, this team is in a position where you could definitely say it's not worth it to have a guy who is in the middle of his prime and who's going to get worse as he gets to 33, 34, 35 years old as a risk taken for this team. If the Vancouver Canucks don't trade Miller right now, and if they don't extend him right now, you face that dilemma heading into 2022-2023, and it gets even crazier when you acknowledge that the Vancouver Canucks next year could honestly be pretty okay. Like, this is a team that might even go out there and contend for a wild card, if not third, in their division. Like, if Kuzmenko works out properly, if Mikheyev scores 20 goals, this team can honestly do some damage. And with JT Miller going out there, potentially being the guy who leads the whole team in points, if at the trade deadline the Vancouver Canucks are in a playoff spot, what's the likelihood they go out there and say, hey, Miller's on the block, we've played 60 games so far, and Miller has 75 points. You want to trade for this guy? Here he is. You think they're going to do that? If they're in a playoff spot and they actually have a chance to compete and contend for that spot, I don't think they do. And as a result, if the conversation gets so crazy, by the time June rolls around, let's say he produces a full 85, 90 points on the season, and then we have the same conversations in June. It's like, dude, this is Johnny Gaudreau all over again. And I'm using Columbus as the team here because JT Miller, he was born in Ohio. Like, I know he hangs out and he's grown up in the Pittsburgh area, but at the same time, like, Pittsburgh, Ohio, Columbus, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's the same situation here. I've said it the whole time. The number one thing the Vancouver Canucks cannot do in a JT Miller trade is settle. But I'm starting to think that the possibility of an even worse outcome does exist. And that would be letting him walk for nothing at all. Vancouver is kind of deadlocking themselves here, man. They're handcuffing themselves hard, especially with this rule that the agent Bartlett's going out there and saying that, hey, once the season starts, we're not going to be talking about a contract anymore. Because at that point, it becomes a lose-lose no matter what happens. If Vancouver goes out there and they perform pretty well, JT Miller gets a lot of points, all of a sudden the likelihood of him getting traded at the deadline goes down. And the Vancouver Canucks have a much more difficult time when they need to re-sign this guy in June. If Miller goes out there and he, I don't know, gets injured, knock on wood he doesn't, but just in case he does, he gets injured, he only plays 20 games, let's say he only has 12 points in the 20 games he plays. That's even more difficult to move, because everybody knows he's still going to bank on the previous year's worth of production he had to get him a new contract when he goes to a new team. And even more, it's going to drive the price of Miller even more down. If that's the case, the Vancouver Canucks should have probably went out there and traded him earlier. And so, at the end of the day, this is getting worse by the day. In my opinion, at least. I definitely do want JT Miller to still be a productive and good hockey player in this league. It's just whether or not that's with Vancouver, that remains to be seen. I like having him here. He's a good player. It's just long-term with the contract implications and all that behind it. I'm not really too sure what to think. And if Miller ends up going to somewhere else in free agency, let's say he goes to Pittsburgh, let's say he goes to Columbus, just because it would be funny if Columbus gets him as well. Boy, we've already made so many videos talking about the Blue Jackets and where they're going and all the players they have and the prospects and everything, so, like, it would be pretty easy, I feel, to get on board with that team. Could you imagine JT Miller and Johnny Gaudreau playing together? Like, Gaudreau, Miller, and Voracek as a line. Oh, Laine. You still have Laine. Oh, man. And you have Werenski on the back end, too. You could do the same Vancouver power play strategy where every pass is Miller to Hughes to Miller to Hughes to Miller to Brock to Bow to goal. Miller had so many assists the previous year because every other pass on the power play was to him. And if it's Werenski and Miller instead on Columbus doing the same thing, that would be pretty cool. But I mean, I guess we have ourselves a year to go until that entire conversation manifests itself in a bigger way, but talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about JT Miller and the idea that the agent is going to go out there and say, no, we are not going to do any negotiating while the season is underway. It's the same protocol that Johnny Gaudreau said when he was entering his contract year with the Flames, and now he's in Columbus, so whoop-de-doo. Articles will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read the Athletic piece. That will be linked, as well as the Pro Hockey Rumors article. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, though, about Miller and his entire Vancouver Canucks profile. How many points do you think he scores in 2022-2023? Do you think the contract he signs in 2023-2024 is going to be in the $9+ million range, regardless of the team? Do you think he's going to get that amount of money? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.